morning. Welcome to Cross Implements training event. We're here this morning. My name is Alan Denker, and with me is
Steve Swinford.
Today we're here. We're going to hook up a planter to a tractor, make all the electrical hydraulic connections, which is a process in itself. It's going to take about 10 minutes. First of all, we have a tractor and a planter, and the planter has hydraulic drive. There's X amount of number of hoses. We have approximately 10 hoses and 3 electrical connections to make on this unit. Moving on to the tractor, we want to make sure that we have a tractor that has all the electrical and hydraulic capabilities to run this planter. It's very important. Steve is going to show you a few things on the tractor here, and then we'll move on to making some hydraulic and electrical connections.
First, we're going to look here. We need a 7-pin connector which controls the lights and solenoids for the planter. Here we have a electrical connector for the frame control, which is the fold box which comes with the planter. You have to install this yourself. You get this nut from the parts department. And then up here we have a 9-pin ISO connector. Down here we're going to look. We have this flat face case drain, power beyond, pressure and return, and then a return to sump. And then we've got 4 remotes.
We're going to start here with a hydraulic case drain fitting. This fitting is a flat face fitting. I'll hand this to Steve.
Before you start hooking these hoses up, be sure to run these under the quick hitch. That way when you're turning and going up and down, you're not catching none of the hoses. Before I started hooking the hoses up, they have these plastic wraps to protect the hoses. Be free to take them off, and so you can move the hoses, and then you can put them back on when you're all done. The flat face case drain is going to go down in the very bottom.
The next fitting we have here is a hydraulic vac motor return. It is a flat face fitting. It has a series of coupler holes in it.
On this again, run it in between the quick hitch, and it's going to be the return to sump for your vac motor.
The next set of hoses are going to be for variable rate drive. And notice it's a good thing to wipe these off before we put them into the couplers on the tractor because of dirt and contamination.
There again, you've got a pressure and a return. And we want to make sure we put them in a proper position. There's a P standard for pressure and R for return.
The next series of hoses we're going to hook is going to be for the main frame lift and the CCS motor.
As you're putting these hoses underneath the quick hitch, there's a green and yellow tag on these. One's pressure, one's return. On your remote, you're going to have pressure on one side, remotes on the other side. So you just want to be sure to line up all the yellow tags on one side, all the green on the other side.
The next set of hoses is going to be for the markers.
There again, you've got a green tag, yellow tag. Be sure to line them up.
The next set of hoses is going to be for the vacuum pump drive.
For the vacuum motors, we like to put them on the return side. So when you go to shut the vac motors off, you can flip the switch in the cab to float, which wouldn't hurt the motors.
Now we have all of our electrical connectors in and hooked to the tractor. We're going to start on the electrical connectors at this time. We're going to start with a 7-pin connector down at the bottom.
And there again, the 7-pin runs the lights and the solenoids on the planter. Now, you can move your planter on the lot or on the farmyard without hooking all the hydraulic hoses up. You just need to have power to the planter from your 7-pin.
The next connector is going to be for the monitor and frame control.
This electrical connector is going to go where your frame control that you installed earlier, that in your frame. Just remove this dust cover lid, and if you're not using your planter, be sure to put this cover back over to protect it from dirt and debris that gets in there.
The next connector is going to be a 9-pin connector. And another thing you might want to do is if these are corroded or you have an older planter, you might want to spray and clean these before we install them.
On this 9-pin connector, you have to take note of what you have on the back of your tractor. Some of these connectors have these latches. If they've got the latches, you can just push the plug in and push the latch down to connect. If it doesn't have the latch, then you have to manually screw this to the connector.
Last but not least, if you have an 11 or a 12 model year planter, they have moved the air compressor filter. They want it in the cab now, and we have this which can mount in the cab, and it has a hose that we can run it right up through the rear window with our frame control harness.
Now, as you are installing all these hoses and electrical connectors, once you're all done, if you can put all these back together, and just grab you a bungee cord or some kind of strap. You can go around all these and come back up somewhere on your quick hitch just to keep them up out of the way. And then you can install your protective covering back on your hoses.
Now that we have all the hydraulic and electrical connections hooked to the tractor, we're going to test it obviously to make sure everything's functional. Sometimes I get a lot of calls. I'll have a gentleman, he'll hook up his planter and it won't fold, it won't raise or lower. And a lot of times the hose might not have got clipped all the way into the SCV. So if you start it up and you're having an issue, come back and recheck your connections. Unplug them, plug them back in. Make sure that you are in the correct hydraulic outlet. Same way with electrical. Your 7-pin connector, it is fuse protected. 1 or 2 fuses, depending upon which model tractor you have, might be something you want to check. As far as your full box and frame control, if we have any 110 codes come up on the display, or we have something in that nature causing an issue, you may want to remove it, clean it, plug it back in. All of these things happen on setup. It's a common thing. And there again, once you get in the field and you're running for a day and you have a quick issue with something, come back and check these connectors, and you may find your problem right away before making a phone call.